Welcome to the College Football Preview Show presented by Yolked. I'm your host, John Sarianides, and I'm joined by my partner, Ryan Barry. Ryan, how are you this evening? Are you feeling spry after your Minutemen played tough for 2.5 quarters last night?
It's so funny how like that's like a win. We're like, hey, it
These
wasn't.
are the times we're living in, my friend.
Yeah, Mark Bertrand didn't talk about it on the Sports Hub the next day, which has just become like the metric, right? These last few months. But yeah, I mean, sad that we're here at the last weekend of the full regular season, but excited to talk about it. I mean, with high school football in the air, the Patriots, playing as well as there, it's a good time for football in general.
Yeah.
So
No, it is, and as you mentioned, it is all wrapping up. And before we do start the conversation here, I want to mention that we are brought to you by Yolked. If you're looking for a safe and effective product that you can incorporate into your workout routine, well, visit yolk.com today. I should say the Yolk product is a protein powder and only 47 calories. It tastes like birthday cake. It is delicious, safe, and effective. Visit yolk.com today for more information on this wonderful product. All right, let's use that as kind of a jumping off point. UMass at Ohio last night, playing in a rainstorm, played tough, scored first, went up 7-0, hung around. At one point, it was 28-14. I will say that 42-14 final was misleading. UMass played much better than that score would indicate. The game was also delayed a couple of times. It was delayed at the beginning. Then there was lightning in the area. I don't know how the hell there was lightning in the area. It was 38 degrees and rain during the game. But apparently there was lightning in the area, got delayed for about a half hour. They had a condensed 3-minute halftime. In the end, UMass hung around for 3 quarters, fell apart in the fourth. We've seen this same old story all year long, lose 42-14.
Yeah, before we start, I just want to, if we're going to talk about UMass, I'm going to put my season ticket holder hat on that I was given, for the, just to show my support for the best game we've played all season. These were the season ticket holder gifts, much to the jokes that I got on Twitter last week.
But now, how were you able to score that hat if you're a member of the media and not a season ticket holder?
I can't reveal my sources, or else I would lose all credibility.
Okay, it's a nice hat. I like it.
It is pretty, yeah. It fits all right. But to support them, no, it's tough because they kept it close, and I think it's a credit to the defense and the secondary that's really struggled this year. But they got absolutely torched on the ground. I mean, 363 yards is crazy. C. Banger just had a day, but really everyone did. But I'm proud of how they played against Parker Navarro, who's honestly one of the better quarterbacks in the MAC, and I think for all G5 schools. And they kind of just made him a real X factor. And I think it was tough because I think you saw a lot of what Grant Jordan could do. You saw a lot of what Brandon Rose even could do at times, right after Hairston went down with, I believe, a dislocated shoulder. So like there was pockets of things that you saw that you're like, that was a glimpse of something, right? And it's tough when a score that you've still lost by multiple points is considered a moral win. But it's just like, I think even if we had more losses like this year, there wouldn't be this cloud that's so dark, right? I think it would be a dark cloud, but it wouldn't be nearly as festering as it's been, right? So it's like a moral win, but it almost feels like too little too late, but I don't know.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because Bowling Green's going to come in with a 3-8 record. They lost to Akron last night, who, by the way, Joe Moorhead's done a great job with that program.
Yeah.
They win next week. They're bowl eligible, which is hard to believe when you consider how little resources that program has. I mean, both they and Kent State have had great years as programs. They do a lot with not a lot. So kudos to those coaching staffs, Coach Moorhead, Coach Carney. But I do think in the end, I think if you're a UMass fan, I agree with you. You have to be pleased with last night to a degree. I mean, a loss is a loss, and on the scoreboard, they still got whacked. But they played much better in the sense they were competitive early. They could very easily pack it in and say, you know what, we're destined for a winless season. Who cares? We're playing out the string. Who wants to be standing there in the pouring rain in mid-November, in the cold November rain, playing a football game? But I think at the end of the day, and I know Harris Simiak has had plenty of detractors this season, and he's now being lumped into the same category as Charlie Molnar and Walt Bell. But they're playing hard for him. They really are. And there's a lot of guys on that team, Gibson, Martin, that are having good seasons for them. And those seasons are flying under the radar because the team collectively has been bad. But there are positives there. And if he can somehow keep the majority of this roster together and then augment it with some experience, and let's be honest here, Ryan, it's going to be hard to get guys to come to Amherst after this year. I mean, they are the worst program in FBS. So it's going to be hard to convince guys that, no, you want to come here and play here. I still think if their NIL is robust enough, they're going to get guys to come here. But all that being said, if you can keep a core of these guys together and add to it this offseason, you could have the building blocks. And I'm not trying to be a jerk here when I say this. You could have the building blocks of a 2, 3, maybe even 4-win season next year.
Yeah, no, that's just what it is, and there's
you're not going to be in bowl contention next year, and if any UMass fan thinks that and has that as their expectation, they need to stop sniffing glue.
Yeah, and I think what's hard is that you saw some things last night too that are just it's like that you do wonder about. I'm not saying so much about Harrisimiak and the staff, but just they make a stop on third down, and Shamel Davis gets flagged for an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
Stupid stuff.
It's that stuff where you're like,
and then a couple of fourth downs. I mean, Jordan trips over himself early in the fourth, and then they have the bad snap early in the game. Like, it's just stupid crap like that. That's emblematic of what's wrong with this program right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what's hard, and I think we need to do a full biopsy when you go back and look at the or autopsy rather. When you go back and look at the season, and I think that people really got UMass fans do this more than any fan base I'm a part of as a sports, hockey, whatever you like, soccer, like where we can really talk ourselves into guys being better than they are. And I think we really saw that back in August when we were like, Brandon Rose he's from Utah. And then, Jaquan Gibson and T.Y. Harding. And of course, injuries really, really did not help the season. But I think there was a lot of times where we were like, we really talked guys into being better than they were without really knowing what they were. And I think that we saw that this year where I hope going forward, we're going to have a little more caution with anyone that we get and be like, hey, cool, this guy had 500 yards rushing last year at Memphis as a running back. Doesn't mean he's going to do that here, right? I just think there needs the expectations. We just always need to remember what it's been and who we are. And I think this year, more than others, people were just really hoping, we really were, sucking on the hopium before the season started more than other years. So, but I mean, it's a moral win last night, even though, again, show of moral victories on here, but it's just a lot of it was just still stupid stuff. Like if Davis doesn't get that penalty, you get off the field and you put the ball back in the offense and you're up 7-0. Like it's those things that separate you from winning football.
Yeah, and until you fix those things and you put those things behind you, you're going to be a loser program that does stupid things that helps you lose games. And unfortunately, that's not me labeling them a loser program. That's what you are when you do dumb things like that.
Right.
Okay, and I think that when Harrisimiak and his staff go back and look at this season, it's got to start there. How do we play smarter, more disciplined, fundamentally sound football? Then you address the talent and the scheme and how you can tweak things to be a better, more competitive program moving forward. But it starts with looking at this objectively and saying, we do a lot of stupid things. We don't play smart. Our guys aren't fundamentally sound. And until we fix those things and we get better in those areas, we're just going to continue to lose games and continue to be a loser program, quite frankly, which is what they are right now. So that's where it has to start if they're going to fix it. Boston College played pretty tough last week, almost beat Georgia Tech, losing 36-34 to the Rambling Wreck. Look, Boston College going into the fourth quarter in this one was up 28-14. And you lose that game, and I know a lot of people are going to point to the Bill O'Brien 15-yarder and everything else and call that the turning point of the game. But the fact of the matter is a lot of the problems that have been an issue for this team all year long rear their ugly heads again. Defense can't stop giving up big plays, can't get off the field on third down. Offense can't convert on third down and extend drives to support the defense. A lot of the things that have been problematic for this team all season long came up again in the fourth quarter, and that's why they lost.
Yeah, and it's too bad because this would have been huge for morale because this wouldn't have been beating. Yeah. This wouldn't have been beating
you would have beat a ranked team.
Yeah, this would have been like Wake Forest or, someone who's unranked or, has 3 wins. This is a team that's competing for the college football playoff that you would have beat at home the final season, final game at home of the season. And I thought Dylan Larnigan played pretty well. Trevor Richard had a lot of rushing yards, a couple of them were big ones, but just Lewis Bond continues to be one of the most productive wide receivers in New England, right? Like it's just so hard if you're a BC fan because you saw a lot of stuff today. But I do think this is, and of course there are injuries and there's a lot to be said about the defense. If I'm a BC fan, I'm looking at this season and it's a story mainly of how inept the defense has been at times. And again, they're missing a lot of players. But I do think that if you're like, okay, but there are some pieces to work with offensively that if O'Brien can bring them back, or at least, fill these holes with recruiting, you could still have something there, but he's going to have to address the defense. He's going to have to bring in a Matt Patricia type like Ohio State did to come in and right the ship because it's just really, like you said, this is what did them in.
Yeah, no, and I think that's going to be the key here is what staff changes does he make? Obviously, he's going to make staff changes. What do you do with the roster? I've been on record of saying it in recent weeks. I think you're going to be looking at potentially 30, 35 new faces on this roster next year, regardless of how much money you have in the bank to pay these guys. At the end of the day, they've got to turn this roster over. That's the name of the game in college football today. Player movement is a fact of life now. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. Either adapt or die. It's that simple. And Bill O'Brien, this program, this athletic department, this school, they better adapt or they're going to die a slow, painful death where they might as well go become an FCS program. And then this is not disrespecting our wonderful FCS programs. This is me saying that if you don't want to invest the resources to be at the FBS level, then go be an FCS program. Now, is that going to happen? No, obviously it's not. But they've got to change the way they do business. They have a bye this week. They wrap up the regular season next weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, when they hit the road to take on a Syracuse team that's 3-7. This should be a winnable game for the Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
They can win this one. I think for Bill O'Brien, for the staff, for the players that are potentially returning, a win over Syracuse would be a good way to end the season and take the some of the pain away, at least short term, because we know change is coming. I still don't think Bill O'Brien's going anywhere. I'd be shocked if he wasn't the coach of this program in 2026. UConn picking up a 26-14 win over Air Force. It was a game that was a little dicey early on, but the Huskies were able to rebound in the second half thanks to Cam Edwards in their running game, and they were able to pick up the 10-point win. It was actually 26-16, not 14. 26-16. But, hey, listen, look, at the end of the day, nobody cares. Bottom line is UConn wins another game now, and they're 8-3, and they're in a position where if they beat FAU on Saturday on the road, they win their bowl game, they're 10-3. It's a pretty impressive feat if they can win double digits.
Yeah, that's not a bad season. I mean, that's a
great season.
More than not a bad season. Yeah, I almost feel like we had a bit of a announcer's curse with Fagnano throwing his first interception, which is too bad because it wasn't like that bad. It just kind of just wasn't a great looking play. And I think that he didn't look the greatest on Saturday. I think Air Force gave them a lot of problems, and I think that Air Force having so much time of possession really made this a different game where. Yep. He wasn't throwing as much because they just took the ball out of their hands by just not being on offense. And but yeah, like you said, Cam Edwards to the rescue, and full credit to Air Force. I watched the majority of this game, and I mean, even Skylar Bell. I mean, I think 8 catches, 70 yards is good for him, but it's not what it's been all season. Like the Falcons came in ready to play and made it as much. But I think that's a testament to Jim Moore as how he has a tough game like this. End of the season, you're looking ahead to FAU, but you still get it done.
Yeah. No, and again, you bring up a good point, and it sucks seeing Fagnano throw his first interception of the season. I was hoping at the very least he gets through the regular season without throwing one. Yeah. That would have been impressive. Still only throwing one pick. You hope he doesn't throw another one this weekend. Only throwing one interception all season long. I don't care what school you're at, what level it is. That's really impressive, and it speaks to how well he's played within the offense and how well he's taken care of the ball. And I think you brought up a good point, too. When you play the service academies, you know it's going to become a time of possession game. You're not going to have as many possessions as you normally would in a normal game against an opponent that runs a different system. So that does factor into the equation here if you're the offensive coaches, where you have to maximize your possessions. And I think to Moore's credit and offensive coordinator Gordy Samus, I think they realized, okay, well, look, we're not going to have as many possessions as we normally would. We're going to rely on our running game. We're going to be physical with them. We're going to look to wear them down, and we're going to look to take control of the pace and make them play on our terms. And if they do that, then we're better. We're going to win and honest. And in the end, that's how it played out. But 8 wins for UConn this season. Have a chance to pick up their 9th on Saturday. They didn't pick up their 9th last year until their Fenway Bowl win over North Carolina. But great season for Jim Moore's squad. And I know that I can be a revisionist historian here, but imagine if you took care of business against Rice and Delaware. I mean, this team would have been in position to win 12 games potentially and had an epic season. It's got to be disappointing if you're Mora. When you look at those 3 losses, overtime loss to Syracuse, overtime loss to Delaware, overtime loss to Rice, if you make a couple of plays, especially on defense in those 3 games, I mean, again, it's revisionist history, but this team potentially could have been undefeated, if not definitely a one-loss team. So
it's just competing. And that's competing for the college football playoff, in my opinion. Like, I think for that G5 spot, and I don't think they would have gotten it, but I do think that their name would have been in the conversation. Like, they would have been brought up. They wouldn't have gotten it, right? Because they don't have the tie-ins and all that, but it would have just been impressive enough to be mentioned in those conversations.
Yeah, and Kevin Stone has said this, and I think it's so true, that they're really making a case to end up in a conference. I mean, if you're a conference that's looking to expand, you got to look at this program right now and say to yourself, look, we know what we're getting with basketball. The 2 best basketball programs in the country, arguably. They're fantastic in all 4 major sports. Their hockey program is good. Their baseball program is good. Football is on a track now where they could consistently be competitive. They're going to be awfully appealing to a team, to a conference, rather, that's looking to expand. And you hope it's sooner than later. They should not be an independent. It blows me away that UConn is an independent, like in football. That is just absurd to me. And I know there's a lot of things in play here. You've got the whole Big East thing with basketball and Hockey East with hockey and all this other stuff. But, man, figure it out. This program deserves to be in a conference. Jim Moore's name is starting to get thrown around, by the way.
Yeah, we were talking about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, all of a sudden now people are talking about him being a candidate at Penn State. And I was on with Joe Murray tonight at 7:20, and I didn't mention him as a potential candidate there. But I'm telling you, don't be fooled about the fact that he's in his early 60s. He's going to be a candidate for some of these openings. And I wouldn't be surprised if he interviews. And I think if you're the administration at UConn, specifically athletic director David Benedict, you have to really consider here extending him and giving him a pay raise, because like I said, he's going to be a popular coach in terms of the openings that are out there. Going over to the CAA real quick, I covered this one. UNH beating Bryan 42-14. Matt Vezza with 5 touchdown passes. Wildcats improved to 7-4, setting up a big matchup against Maine, who got thumped by URI 45-13. But nonetheless, the Bryce Cowell Musket is on the line on Saturday in Durham. UNH is playing some pretty good football, and if they win this game, they have an outside shot at a potential at-large playoff berth.
Yeah, I mean, full credit to, again, not like we ever doubt Ricky Santos, but just for the ability to take this team and put themselves right back into the thick of it for playoff contention. 2 years now removed from Max Brosmer, but even just thinking of last year, like, how are we going to replace all these guys? And they find themselves right in the middle of it. And I think I feel silly for picking Maine last week, especially for how bad they got beaten. Full credit to Rhode Island for how bad they took them in that game. But
they looked the part last week.
Yeah. So I think that's going to doubt a lot of naysayers who are saying URI, they shouldn't be top 10, should be top 10. I think that they're right where they should be. So
yes, I agree.
So I don't know if UNH has a strong enough resume for an at-large bid, but I mean, stranger things have happened.
It's the 4 losses. I think if you're 8-3 going into this game, you win it, you're 9-3. I think that they're pretty. I don't want to say they're a lock, but I think they'd have a strong shot at getting an at-large playoff berth. Despite their recent history of success, making the playoffs 16 of the last 20 years, I'm not sure that's going to be enough for the committee to look at them and say, yeah, even at 8-4, let's assume they beat Maine. Even at 8-4, we feel comfortable enough. It's really going to come down to the CAA. How much yank does the CAA have? How much does a committee value playing in the CAA? Now, I will say this: if they beat Maine, get the Bryce Cowell Musket, I think that Monmouth win is going to help them.
Yeah.
And if you're building a case for UNH, I think the conversation starts with that Monmouth win a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't just beat him. I know people have said, and some people said this to me and Bryant last week. Yeah, but they didn't have their quarterback. Listen, I get it. Derek Robertson, best quarterback in the CAA. Not having him makes a huge difference. But I think if they were to get in as an at-large, I think that win over Monmouth might be what pushes them through.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and they're going to need Monmouth. It's tough because you don't want Monmouth to take on more losses this weekend. But if they finish 10-2, does that help you more? Or if them losing, does that help you more because it helps you get closer? But I think a loss for Monmouth this weekend would actually probably be worse. So we'll see. I mean, they're going to need a lot of help. Teams like Abilene Christian, Youngstown State, Lamar, South Dakota State. They need these teams to lose, and they need to win to give themselves a shot. Yeah. So we'll see.
And it's going to be hard because, for example, you take a program like South Dakota State. That's an established program that's been a national title contender in recent years, and they're ranked year in and year out. And if it comes down to it, obviously record's going to matter, who you played, who you beat, if there's any common opponents, how you did against them. But at the end of the day, that program has a little bit more cachet, and that typically matters to these committees that decide these tournament fields in all sports, really. Congratulations to Sacred Heart, the Pioneers improving to 8-3 with a 42-37 win over Merrimack to win the Yankee Conference Championship for the second year in a row. There is no Yankee Conference. It's what they're playing for the last couple of years as independents. Sacred Heart and Merrimack. Sacred Heart, of course, going into the CAA next year. Merrimack is going to remain independent. But listen, I said this at the beginning of the year. This Sacred Heart program needed some momentum going into the CAA. And if some of their young guys stepped up, some of the young talent that was on the roster, they were poised to have a good season. They have exceeded expectations. They wrap up the season this Saturday at Villanova. But if they win this game, who would have thought that this team would finish 9-3? That's some legit momentum going into the CAA next year.
Yeah, I think I had them at like 4 or 5 wins just because we didn't know we had them. And they had 3 guys run for at least 100 yards on Saturday. And I know that Merrimack's had their struggles this year. Aiden Pereira has been the offense. He scored 4 touchdowns the other day. But just this is if you were a CAA fan, if you're, and you're worried about Sacred Heart, like what type of program we're getting, they're kind of small, do they fit our profile? They're coming in hot. This is what you need. You need this type of momentum. So like you said, this is great.
And again, a lot of that too, you got to take the Bryant blueprint, okay?
Right.
And it's about investing in facilities and investing in recruiting. And I think if you do that, you can be competitive. Now, I will say this, Sacred Heart is not in the same place that Bryant was last year coming into the CAA. They had already spent a bunch of money to position the program to be competitive in the CAA. And as we've seen, they didn't win their first CAA game until last weekend when they beat Albany. It's easier said than done. If Sacred Heart wants to make it work in the CAA, they're really going to need to put money into those facilities. They're going to need to put money into player acquisition. There's a lot that's going to need to go into it because right now they still look like an NEC FCS independent program, and they need to have more of a look like a program that can compete nationally. Going over to the Ivy League, of course, I don't think any of us saw this one, but Harvard had about all they can handle at home against Penn, ended up winning 45-43. I think the Crimson needed a game like this, Ryan. I think if you're Andrew Orridge, you're thankful for a game like this because it's a reminder that you may think that you're on top of the world and you may think you're the cat's meow, and all of a sudden you get a team that comes into your place hungry, ready to prove something. They almost knock you off. I think this is a blessing in disguise for this Harvard team.
Yeah, because people always talk about, we got to lose at some point because with the momentum, it's like, no, you don't want to root for a loss, right? Like if you're the Patriots, you don't want to lose this weekend just because you've been playing too well. But this is the type of scare they need to be like, whoa, we can lose it. We are vulnerable. And I think to win in the fashion they did, to show that they can be down and come back, to win at the end like that, to feel like it was close to a loss, but they didn't, they got all the things that they needed, I think, from that. Like, I think you hit on that, and it's at home. You do it, you finish in an exciting fashion, and, Jaden Craig plays well again. And so I think, but again, full credit to Penn. I think this is been their story all year, just playing close games and playing everyone tight. So
yeah. No, I agree. Brown picking up a 32-29 win over Columbia, snapping their 4-game losing streak. The Bears are now 4-5. Have a chance on Saturday at home to potentially finish 5-5 with a win over Dartmouth. Dartmouth beating Cornell 24-14. Dartmouth with an opportunity to perhaps win their 8th game of the season. And of course, the big one down in New Jersey, Yale beating Princeton 13-10 to set up a mega showdown in the rivalry game, the game on Saturday in New Haven between Harvard and Yale. The winner of that game would not only win the Ivy League, but they also get the automatic playoff berth in the FCS playoffs. So huge stakes in that one on Saturday. But nonetheless, can't believe it. We're down to the final week of the regular season in the Ivy League, but another good week of action.
Yeah, and again, looking at that FCS top 25, it's encouraging because we've talked about this all season. How if you're Dartmouth in this, you had a really good season. If you're Yale, but let's say you lose this week, you're 7-3, but you got to add 2 more games to the schedule to make yourself competitive for those at-large bids. Because if there's anything that now joining the FCS playoffs is telling me, it's you got to catch up to speed with like everybody else with the schedule to make yourself more competitive, because these teams are too good to be left out, in my opinion. But they just don't have those extra games to help, and they can't rest in their laurels anymore. Yeah, but I beat Princeton. They're good. It's like, yeah, no, but you got to beat Mercer. You got to beat Furman. You got to beat other teams as well. So I think just seeing Dartmouth and the others receiving votes, I'm like, no, that team's too good. And to think that Yale's could be done playing football at the end of the season, or that Harvard could be done playing to some degree, I don't know. Like, who's to say that they don't get bounced as an at-large? And I don't think they would, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, I don't see in their first year of playoff eligibility, I'd be surprised, although you never know because the Harvard brand is a big deal. But let's say Yale wins this game. I don't see them giving a second Ivy League team an at-large playoff berth, but if there was ever a program that they might do it for, it would be Harvard. So even if Yale were to win this game, Harvard, I think, has a decent shot at potentially getting an at-large berth, but we shall see. Going over to the NEC, disappointing loss for CCSU, losing in Pittsburgh on Saturday, 38-33 to Duquesne. Now, CCSU needs to beat Mercyhurst on Saturday to win the NEC and secure the automatic playoff berth. But if you're Adam Lechtenberg and his staff, this is a disappointing loss.
Yeah, because you've kind of been in the driver's seat all season, and but it was like cruise control last week. Oh right, yeah, like I got to drive this car, and it's like, and I remember saying last week that Duquesne is a program who is always talented. They always play tough games, and I almost picked them last week, and I kind of regret not doing so because I had a weird feeling about this, like going down there, and I don't know. It's a real shame because they still are they're still in a good spot, but like, you got to be able to win these games to show that once you get to the FCS playoffs, you can actually do something. And you can't lose games like that for that reason.
No. Stonehill losing to Wagner 20-14, and Holy Cross picking up their second win of the season in impressive fashion, beating Bucknell 37-20. The Crusaders will host Georgetown this weekend at Fenway Park. So, good way to end the regular season there. You hope that Dan Curran's squad picks up another win, finishes with a couple of wins in a row here to end the season, and build some momentum into the offseason. You are watching the College Football Preview Show presented by Yolked. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Rowdy Ryan Barry. And before we continue the conversation here, we preview the games. I do want to remind you that if you're looking for a safe and effective protein product that you can add to your workout routine, take a look at Yolked. At only 47 calories per packet, tastes like birthday cake, and it is effective. Visit Yolked.com today for more information on this great product. All right, Barry, you ready to preview these games?
Let's do it.
All right, so UMass played last night. We're going to go ahead and preview next week's game against Bowling Green to start, and then we'll talk about UConn and FAU, and then we'll get into the FCS schools. Of course, as I mentioned, Boston College on a bye this week. Probably the stupidest bye I've ever heard of in my life. I don't know why you would give a team a bye. No, I don't know why you'd give them a bye with a week left of the regular season. It makes no sense to me, but who am I to question that? We're not decision makers here. We're not the powers that be. Now, UMass is playing Bowling Green next week, November 25th, a 4:30 kickoff. Like, what are we doing here? A 4:30 in the afternoon kickoff next Tuesday. I don't understand this. Help me understand. We talk about decision making and the logic that goes into it. This might be the dumbest decision of all.
It feels kind of like, like a Friday afternoon news dump,
Yeah.
but for a football game, where it's just like,
Just play it
go
and get it out of the way.
Yeah, and let's just, and also maybe it's attendance or it's going to be cold. That's truly what it feels like. I'd have to look and see. I don't know if the MAC stacked games that night, if there's going to be 6 games going on, or 6 games, like 4 games going on.
Well, it's the last night of action, I believe, because I don't think they play the night before Thanksgiving. So
yeah, and I do think too that more people take these weeks off now, so you could be looking at kind of like a bowl week thing, where like, oh, there's a game at 2:30 on a Tuesday. Yeah, because it's bowl season. So I don't know if they're looking at it from that perspective, but I mean, I personally am relieved, because if it doesn't go well, it's not going to be on the forefront of everybody's news the next day. But I don't know. It's John. I just don't know anymore, because like I would not have picked them to play better against Ohio compared to Northern Illinois. Like, I don't know what the hell to do. Like, in Bowling Green has not been good. I thought they were going to be a lot better. They were 3-3 to start the year and been a complete skid, losing 5 straight. So it's like, I don't know. I'm going to take Bowling Green just because, but maybe because they only lost by 3 to Kent State, but they lost by 21 to Buffalo. So, lost to Akron, but it was close, but so I'm going to take Bowling Green just for continuity's sake, but who knows?
You know what? The hell with it. I'm taking UMass.
Okay.
The hell with it. I think they win by 3 points. They carry the goalposts out down into downtown Amherst. Everybody loses their mind and they avoid the winless season. I think it's going to be a competitive game similar to the Buffalo game, but I think this time the Fighting Harrisimiacs don't step on their toes. They end up winning it. They hold on to pick up a big 24-21 win. Yes, I think this offense can score 24 points. 24-21 win over Bowling Green. They don't end up going winless, and the goalposts can be found in Amherst Center. So I'm going with the Minutemen. The heck with it. I mean, what the hell do we have?
Why not?
Yeah,
why not? Yeah.
All right. UConn hits the road to take on FAU. The Huskies are favored by 7.5.
Give me UConn finishing the season strong. This would be a real, kick in the teeth if they don't win. Obviously it'd still be a tremendous season, but I don't know. I think either way, I think they still get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's that number is tricky if you're putting money on the game. It is certainly a degenerate gambler special. I'm going to go with UConn as well. I do think they cover that number. I think they win by 10, but we've been down this road before. That FAU team is 4-6. They're not bad. And as we've seen at times this season, Delaware, Rice, I'm sorry, Husky fans, I don't want to do this to you, that I have to remind you of this. But these are the types of games on the road that this team has tripped up this year. Yep. This could be one of those games. I'm going to go with UConn. I think they cover. They probably win by 10, but I don't feel that strong about that prediction. I feel a little icky. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm going to stick with it. But I feel a little gross picking them to cover because they've been disappointing in these spots during this season. All right, let's go over to the CAA. Bryant at Stony Brook. Bulldogs looking to finish their season with a win. If they do, they would finish the year 4-8. I don't think a lot of us thought 4-8 was in the cards after they beat UMass. But nonetheless, here we are. Stony Brook is 5-6. It's going to be a tough game here. I'm going to go with Stony Brook. I think this Bryant team – I'm not going to sit here and say they've quit on Chris Merritt because I think Merritt and his staff do a great job. But I think they're at a point now, from what I saw last week, they were competitive in the first half. But I'm not sure there's enough left in the tank that they rally the masses enough to go down to Stony Brook and win this one. Give me the Seawolves.
Yeah, same. I think that Stony Brook had higher expectations coming into this year, and you win this one, they get to 500, and they can at least say, hey, at least we didn't finish below 500. So yeah, give me the Seawolves, and let's hope that they can stay healthy and recruit and get some guys for Bryant next year and get them to 6 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure is going to be on there with the investment made in the facilities, and certainly in terms of scholarships and player acquisition. Next year's a big year for Chris Merritt and his squad, but I do think that they deserve the opportunity to right the ship here and get it back on track. And I think Chris is 100% the guy to do that. All right, next up is a game you're going to be at. Hampton at URI. Rams win this one. They win the CAA, and they win 10 games. I think the Rams get it done. I think what they did to Maine last week was impressive. That Maine team had won 6 in a row. I think the Rams went up there and dismantled them, and they proved that they're the best team in the CAA, and they're a team to keep an eye on in the playoffs. It's no longer about, yay, we made it to the playoffs and we won a piece of the CAA and it's best season in 40 years. It's awesome. Let's have endless banquets and talk about it every day in the offseason until the next season rolls around. This team knows how to win now. They know what it means to get to this point. They know what it takes to compete in the playoffs. They got to the second round last year. This is a talented team. A deeper playoff run could be in the works, but they'll take care of business this week.
Yeah, give me Rhodey. I'm so excited to get down there. I've never seen a URI play at home. I've been to a basketball game there, but never football. And I know they're going to be doing some renovations. So I'll have to get back there in a couple of years. But give me Rhodey. Hampton is just reeling that they're not going to be playing. It's going to be cold, and this is just I think this is going to be kind of exclamation point. This is our title outright, and we're here, and we mean business.
Yeah, and of course, the big one in the CAA this weekend pits Maine at New Hampshire. Bryce Cowell Musket on the line here, one of the best rivalries in New England. And I will say this. After I was done talking to Ricky Santos last week when I interviewed him after the game, needless to say, he was pretty fired up for this one. I'm sure that the Maine folks will be pretty fired up for it as well. They know what's at stake here. I think this is going to be a terrific matchup. Maine had a lot of mojo going on here in recent weeks. I think some of that mojo could be gone now. I'm going to go with UNH here. They're at home. They're fired up. They know that they're still potentially playing for something bigger here, but that musket means a lot to them. I think that musket stays in Durham. I think that they get the win, and I think they give themselves a shot at a potential at-large playoff berth.
Yeah, give me the Wildcats here. I think if I had seen something a little bit better last week from Maine, I probably would have picked the Black Bears, but I'm going to go with UNH to maybe keep that FCS playoff berth alive. And this would be 4 straight for UNH. So I think there is a lot of motivation for the Black Bears to do something here.
Yeah, they've owned this series in recent years for sure. And finally, Sacred Heart visits Villanova. Villanova, of course, 9-2. They are leaving the CAA, so they cannot win the CAA conference this year. I think Sacred Heart plays competitive in this one. I think it's a close game, but I'm going to go with the Wildcats here.
Yeah, I'm going to take Villanova. They need some style points to help themselves. So yeah, give me the Wildcats.
Okay, and let's move on to the FCS independent ranks. Merrimack closes their season at home in Andover, taking on Fordham. I'm going to go with the Warriors here. I think they end up finishing a tough year at 4-8. Some positives, but a lot to work on there for Mike Giannetti and his staff.
Yeah, Fordham's having a real rough season, so I think this is the perfect opponent for them to try and close the season on a high note. So give me the Warriors as well.
Yeah, Rams coming into this one at 1-10. I feel for my good buddy, Coach Ciosi, Steve Ciosi, longtime offensive line coach, run game coordinator, recruiting coordinator at Bryant. He's in his first year at Fordham. It has not been a good year for the Rams. We hope that they turn things around. All right, next up, we're going to go over to the Ivy League. And, of course, we're going to start with the big one, Harvard and Yale, the game, arguably one of the 3 best rivalries in college football. A lot on the line in this one, an Ivy League title, an FCS playoff berth. Our Kevin Stone is going to leave Waltham. Yes, he does that on occasion when he goes to Chestnut Hill or Foxborough. He's going to go beyond his limits here. That's how big this game is going to be, that Kevin Stone is driving to New Haven to cover this. I mean, holy shit, is it going to be a big game if Kevin Stone is doing that? It's big time if Stone's in the building. I think this is going to be a fantastic matchup. This is a hard one for me to pick. It really is, because I know how good Yale is at home, and I know Tony Reno will have his squad ready to play. But look, this Harvard team has been on a mission from day one. They've been the best team in the Ivy League all year. I think they go to New Haven. They get it done. Andrew Orich gets another big Ivy League win out of this squad, and they win an Ivy League title outright. I like Harvard in this one. Should be close. I see this being a 28-24 kind of game, but I'm taking the Crimson.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Crimson. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get from Tony Reno. Sometimes he looks great. Then last week, 2 picks. Like it's
You
you
mean
know
Dante Reno?
who does I'm sorry. Yeah, Dante Reno.
I was like, well, at
Yeah,
his age, you're not going to get what you used to be able to
right.
get out of Coach Reno.
Yeah, I'm
Player
sorry. Yeah,
coach, he's like Bill Russell.
yeah. I talked too confidently there. I mean, he's a tremendous quarterback. I just think that sometimes, but this is at home, so and they have played well at home. So I'd be shocked if this wasn't close. But I also wouldn't be shocked if the Bulldogs won. So, but give me Harvard here.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a terrific game. Stone's been wanting. He's covered a Harvard Yale game in Cambridge. He's been wanting to do it in New Haven, so I think he's gonna be in for a treat. And
Well, bundle up.
maybe
Yeah.
if he, I do think Stone is culturally challenged because otherwise, he would know after the game he should stop and get some New Haven pizza. But I don't think Stone knows that it's a thing.
That's what I did 2 years ago when you guys graciously sent me down there and I got to cover that. It was so cool. I went to I don't think I went to Frank Pepe's, but I think I might have gone to
Did you go to
Sally's.
Sally's?
I think because Frank Pepe's I've been there a couple times and
Yeah.
now it's like franchise. So I was like, let me try the other place and it was good. So yeah, he's got to do. I mean,
he's got to do that, but he won't. He doesn't know about that stuff. It's like when I was in Philly at the end of August. I'm like, look, I've tried Jim's, I've tried Pat's, I've tried Gino's, I've tried Tony Luke's. It's time to go to Angelo's and see what all the hype is about. And Angelo's is by far the best cheesesteak in Philly.
Ooh, okay.
It's the best steak and cheese I've ever had in my life, and I've eaten a fair amount of them, as you can tell. So. You know what? When you're in those places and they have when you're in a place or a city that has a great food scene, if you don't try the food, you're a chafang. So
yeah, it's just we get. Yeah, when I'm at Lambeau,
so I'm gonna press Stone to make sure he gets a piece of pizza down there. All right, Dartmouth at Brown, Big Green with a win. They finish 8-2. They cannot win a share of the Ivy League title this year, but nonetheless, I think an 8-win season would be a fantastic season for Sammy McCorkle's squad. I think the Big Green get it done. If you're a Brown fan, 4-6 is not what you were hoping for, especially after a 3-1 start, especially after the changes that were made this offseason. I think that the Bears will play well in this one, but I also think they're up against it. I like Dartmouth.
Yeah, same. I think that they're going to finish well, and the Dartmouth defense is too good for what the Brown offense is capable of, and they have some talent in that Brown offense. I just think that they're more complete for the Big Green. So yeah, give me Dartmouth.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next up, the NEC is on the line when Central Connecticut State hosts Mercyhurst. The Blue Devils can win it outright with a win. They would finish 8-4 and get the automatic playoff berth. I think they get it done. I know last week left a bad taste in their mouth. They could have positioned themselves to potentially wrap it up last week. Didn't happen. Mercyhurst, battle tested. They played a good schedule. Don't think it's going to matter, though. I think the Blue Devils are better. Give me Central Connecticut State in this one.
Yeah, Mercyhurst is coming in on a bit of a run. They've had to win 2 straight to keep themselves in the conversation. But I like CCSU too much. I mean, there's some bad losses on this Mercyhurst schedule, right? So, and this is going to be a pissed off Blue Devils team.
And finally, Stonehill hosts winless St. Francis. Give me the Skyhawks in this one to finish 4-8 on the season and pick up a much-needed win and build some momentum going into the offseason.
Yeah, give me Stonehill as well.
All right. And of course, you also in the NEC have the Battle of the Boroughs, Wagner and Long Island. So there you go. I just wanted to mention that. And finally, we're going to go over to the Patriot League. You have Holy Cross hosting Georgetown at Fenway Park. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, Crusaders coming off a big win last week at Bucknell. I think that they continue to build off of that. They keep the good times rolling. I think they pick up a big win, a much-needed win versus Georgetown at Fenway Park. They'll finish the season with 2 wins in a row, and they'll build some momentum going into the offseason.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. I don't know if you saw the Holy Cross helmets that they're wearing for the game specifically. They put like a little green monster on there or something. So, yeah, just from the vibes of that helmet alone, give me Holy Cross to finish the season strong.
Yeah, and again, they need it. And we know Dan Kern's a hell of a coach. We know he's assembled a good staff there. They're going to bounce back next year. I think they're going to have a strong offseason, and they're going to bounce back. And I think it's going to help that they pick up a win here and get it done. All right, any final thoughts here? I don't think we missed anyone, did we?
I don't think so.
No, we picked Merrimack over Fordham. I remember that. So I think we're good. Final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
I'm just sad that this is, we've kind of come to the end here in whatever we have next. And I just, I'm grateful for being able to do this with yourself and for New England college football. It brings so much joy, and I'm really I'm pumped that it's gonna to be able to cover URI Saturday and kind of go out with a bang. So,
Yeah.
and I'm putting my Rams hat on. I'm going to be low key cheering for them. I think that's just they're the best program in the FCS this year and in this region. So I'm excited to see them hopefully close out strong.
Yeah, I think the Harvard folks might have something to say about that, though. So we'll see.
That's true. I'm showing my bias here. Yep, for my
But
CAA.
I agree with you. I think that, as I said earlier, I think that they are primed potentially for a playoff run here. If they can win this one, get that bye, get healthy, I think it would be huge if they finish in the top 10 and end up with a top 10 seed and end up getting a bye. I think it'd be huge for the program because I think it could potentially help them heal up, prepare, and potentially make a run. It would be huge for this program, a program that up until last year had been building to this, but also has a long history of struggling. It's been great to see what Jim Fleming and his staff have done there. That'll do it for this week's episode of the College Football Preview Show. TBD as to when you will hear from us again. We will wait and see with Thanksgiving next week and the Thanksgiving games at Fenway and family commitments. We're going to try to figure out a time to get back together with you here before the season officially ends. Again, we'll let you know when that is. But for Ryan Barry, I'm John Sarianides. Till next time, have a happy and safe rest of your week. Peace.